Hey, welcome to a special edition of the Expert CRE Secrets podcast. I'm here with a commercial real estate expert, Logan Freeman. Logan, how you doing today?
Wow, doing fantastic, Brett. Just happy to be here, finishing today strong. I always like to call Fridays Finish Strong Fridays, and we are doing just that.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm excited to dive in. We're talking about how to find a great commercial real estate broker. And Logan, you're out of the great state of Missouri, Kansas City area commercial real estate broker and specialist, as well as investor yourself. And you want to give like the 30-second version, and we'll dive right into some of the top questions.
Yeah, Brett, it's really simple. The model that we have set up is, trying to take a consultative approach, right? And I think that everybody's position or situation is a little bit different. And so we say, look, if you want to actively own real estate, we can help you do that. Or if you don't want to actively own real estate, you want us to do that for you and collect the checks, we can do that too. And so, we give access and exposure to investors to a commercial real estate asset class. Maybe they wouldn't have an opportunity to do that by themselves. We do it all here in the great state of Missouri and Kansas City. If anybody's following Kansas City, you obviously know that it has performed well over the last 12 months and is continuing to grow. So I'm very blessed to be in a city where I can also invest in and feel like it's my home. So that's a little bit about what we've got going on.
Love it. So let's dive right in to some of these questions here. One of the top ones that often a lot of folks have is, or to ask, if you're an investor, right? So if you're an investor looking for a broker, right? How to find a great real estate broker. First one I think we would have is, what would it be? I guess. Let me ask you, what would the first question be, Logan, that you'd want to ask as an investor?
Well, I think that there's two really. And the first one is, how long have you been, working in the commercial real estate space? You really want to try to get a fundamental understanding of how they're viewing real estate, right? And what I mean by that is everybody says commercial real estate, and our niches inside of sub niches, which can get even more niche in real estate. It's hyper local, but also the asset class that you focus on is also extremely important to know. So I would say, how long have you been, really working in the commercial real estate industry? What is your expertise, and what would you call your unique capability in the space? That's my first question that I think I would ask somebody.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? You want to make sure that they're the right fit and they have the right experience and the right background. And what would
Right.
be the second question that you would ask?
So second question I would ask a broker that I'm thinking about working with is, do you own any commercial real estate yourself, right? And that's going to give you a little bit of insight into potentially how they are modeling projects, what they're, what they think about from an operations standpoint. And so I always like to see if somebody has, owned real estate and that they've operated real estate, because believe it or not, even though commercial real estate professionals are in the industry, I would say the bulk of them do not own any real estate. And so there's a big difference between marketing real estate to sell, operating real estate, and understanding what investors actually want. And so that's the root of what we're trying to get to in that question.
Yeah, that makes sense. At Marcus and Millichap, we always wanted to talk about getting on the other side of the phone. And it wasn't just to create more wealth, but it was
That's
also to
right.
be able to understand the assets in which our clients were in the day-to-day of operating, managing, and owning and adding value, which was the key thing here. And so I think that is key, right? You want to make sure you're working with a commercial real estate broker who actually physically owns real estate themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because guess what? If someone's going to be guiding you in this process, especially if it's multi-millions of dollars of your wealth and your family's wealth, you want to make sure that they've been in your shoes. So great. That's a great second question. What would be the next question that someone would want to ask to how to find a great commercial real estate broker?
I think the third question you want to ask is something around, if you do invest in commercial real estate, when you're evaluating new opportunities, what kind of financial metrics do you target? What are you looking for? What's your target going in first year cap rate? Do you care about cap rate? What's your terminal exit cap rate? And what is the return on investment metric that you're typically looking at? Because, we know as brokers and as, investors ourselves, that you can make a deal look very good on paper, no matter what type of deal it really is. And so understanding how somebody is actually going to evaluate the value of the property and the return on investment of that gives you a kind of a glimpse into their what I'll call their exposure to the real estate space. Because if somebody can't really identify a return on investment metric, or they don't know how to underwrite or even break down a pro forma for you, probably not the best investment real estate broker to start working through. So I would ask about return on investment metrics, what they look for, and which ones they're actually using.
Yeah, as a part of that, even just defining what a cap rate is, right? If you might ask someone what cap rate is, well, that's a way it's a return metric. Okay, but well, what is it? What does that consist of? And a good way I put it, when one of my mentors at Marcus Milchap, he said it's the unleveraged rate of return.
Mm-hmm.
And can they simplify these complex things? So I said, well, what's an unleveraged rate of return mean? Well, if you were to buy something all cash, Logan, and let's say it's a 6 cap, okay, that's a 6% cash on cash return. That is a cap unleveraged rate of return. So it kind of breaks it down. So you go, okay, so if I bought this $1 million property and it's a 6 cap and I bought it all cash at 6%, and then reverse back that again and say, well, if you keep your money at the bank, maybe you get a 0.5%, maybe even less now, 0.25% with a lot of banks. So I can buy this thing all cash, or I can sit at the bank. So you can sit at the bank and have no headaches, no anything, right? Obviously not a lot of upside either. You're losing out on inflation. Or I can put it $1 million in there if I bought it all cash and get 6% basically cash on cash, not alone the depreciation and the appreciation. Now, if you leverage, right, and this is where it comes powerful. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like to look at the cap rate as well, as that's a great breakdown, but also is like, hey, what's the rate of risk, right? What's the risk rate here? And you think about a capitalization rate from an institutional or private equity, or even just a normal, I guess institutional style definition. And it's really, hey, what's the risk-free rate that you could go invest some bonds, with the U.S. government? That's probably your least amount of risk that you're going to get. Well, a lot of times those are, 0%, right? And so then you think of a capitalization rate. What's the spread between that risk-free rate and where your capitalization rate is? And in that is a measure of risk. And so typically we have core plus, value add, and opportunistic, asset classes. And your core offerings are going to be closer to that risk-free rate than maybe some of the opportunistic ones are. And if it's not, then you're probably not paying the right price, right? So you always want to think about the risk involved with the transaction that you're working on. And that's kind of how I like to measure, a cap rate. Now, when we're talking about value add and opportunistic deals, it's very difficult to look at a cap rate and say, man, that's a great deal, because typically you are going in and adding value, right? So you might not have any cash flow on those properties from year 1 to year 2, or maybe even longer, depending on the construction plan. So just understanding the capitalization rate, what it means, and when it's applicable is also very, very important.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely. And the risk-adjusted rate of return, right, is important as well, right? Anything you're looking at. And I believe, hands down, commercial real estate is the best risk-adjusted rate of return, especially if you're dealing with multifamily, mobile home parks, senior housing, assisted living. There's just nothing out there that's that you can get hands-on control, tangible, add value, as well as a necessity and a need. And so any thoughts on just, I guess the next question about that is what you want to ask your commercial real estate broker, making sure he's understanding that. I would think, does he love commercial real estate? Does he own it? Does he love it?
Yeah.
Does he understand that it's a great asset class? Would that be something, connect that passion and that connection there for us, Logan?
Yeah, I think that it's very important to understand the underlying reasons that folks are investing in real estate, right? Real estate has intrinsic value, meaning it has value not subject to, what somebody else is willing to pay for it, because it is actually paying you on a regular basis. And so, private equity businesses, commercial real estate, those all have intrinsic value. So even if the marketplace is only willing to pay you a certain amount, your commercial real estate could be worth more to you because it's actually paying you on a regular basis. And so I think assets with that intrinsic value something that you have to understand and think through. And so I always like to have, I'm a touch feel kind of guy, right? I'm from the show me state. So you show me 7 and I'll show you 8, right? Like that's what Nelly said, right? In his song way back when. But I didn't think I was going to be rapping here today, but there is some truth to that. There really is. It's like, you can go touch and feel what you're in. Everybody's watching what happened to GameStop and Robinhood and Reddit over the last couple of days, and you have to start wondering, holy cow, if that type of situation was allowed in the stock market, is that happening on a larger scale? We just haven't heard of it, right? And so then you start thinking about price to earnings ratio, which at 32, I think right now, or 31 for the Dow, and historically we've been at 16. So, that's kind of a measure of, are we overvalued in the stock market? Where are the stocks priced at? I can't say I have a crystal ball, but what I can say is, if I have a commercial real estate asset that people are paying me, tenants are paying me, or, residents are paying me, or a business is paying me on a regular basis, that's still going to continue, depending on which asset class you're in. But I can't say that same thing for, going and buying GameStop's, stock. Sure, it might shoot up 300% and AMC might go up 400%, but it might go down 500% tomorrow. I just don't know. That's not going to happen in the commercial real estate world. Valuations take a long time to change, and there's still intrinsic value. So I think having a broker that understands that and can talk through that is crucial to your success when you're thinking about who to work with.
Absolutely. And what will be the next question now that we dive into for, questions to ask, how to find a great commercial real estate broker. And by the way, this is Logan Freeman here. He's a commercial real estate expert out of Kansas City. He has a unique way of finding off-market deals and deals together, but he also owns deals himself. So, Logan, what would be the next question if someone's asking, how to find a great commercial real estate broker?
You have a great segue right into this next question, which is, what kind of professional, community, and interpersonal relationships do you foster to find off-market deals, right, Brett? So everybody wants to know. I had a breakfast meeting this morning. How are you finding deals? And so I laid it out. I said, okay, well, here's the 15 things that I am doing, including 2 podcasts, writing 4 articles a week for different organizations, being a part of CCIM, the Urban Land Institute, hosting my own meetup group, other brokers in the network, vendor relationships like property managers, attorneys, lenders, inspectors, you name it. All these different things are creating off-market opportunities for our investors that are looking to purchase and for ourselves. And so asking a broker, hey, how involved are you in the community? Believe it or not, Brett, and I know we're both very big on our faith. I get a lot of commercial real estate deals from church. They see that I show up not only on Sundays, but I'm there sometimes on Wednesdays. I'm doing the food pantry. I sit on the board of a nonprofit. All of those things say, you know what? That guy's looking like he's trying to be, a good influence on the community. Let's talk to him about what we've got going on in our business. And that just kind of starts to create the referral stream of hey, you should talk to Logan and see if he can help out. So I think that's a great question to ask, is how involved are you in your community? Where are you finding off-market deals other than just picking up the phone, which is great too, but other than just picking up the phone like the other 500 real estate brokers like you in the space?
Very well said. Yeah, I call it the diversified deal flow stream, right? Just like you want a diversified income streams from different asset types and different product types and different cash flow streams, you want a diversified deal flow stream, because guess what? That broker you're working with, he's the one hopefully going to find that deal, that diamond in the rough, that deal where if you're in a 1031 exchange, you have a time frame, you want to make sure, he's not just going for all his eggs in one basket, just cold calling, right? Or just podcasting, or just online blogs, or just community involvement, right? You want to get multiple ones. And so that is a great part there. We can do a whole segment on that. But that being said, what is the next question? How to find a great commercial real estate broker?
Okay, so the next question is, something that should be pretty simple for somebody to answer. And it's just, how many listings do you have at this time? And this is twofold, because you want to understand that they are active in the market and they have good relationships with property owners, but the amount of listings that they have typically represents the amount of pocket listings that they have too. right? And so many times as real estate brokers in this space, we work to get a listing, yes, and it works out great, and we market a property. Specific asset classes like neighborhood retail shopping centers, office investments, and sometimes self-storage, they require you to go out and get a listing because you want to utilize all the different marketing channels that you can and get as much exposure. But there are certain times where a property owner is not going to want to list their property for a multitude of reasons. They don't want people knowing that they're selling. They might be in a distressed situation. They don't want people knowing that. They don't want to disturb their tenants. They don't want to disturb their property manager. And the list goes on and on. However, a good real estate broker with listings will probably have double the amount of pocket listings as they do actual listings that are on LoopNet or the MLS, if that's what their system that they use. So how many listings do you have is the next question.
Perfect. Let's go right into the next one. That one's pretty self-explanatory. What's the next question to ask?
All right. What current trends are you seeing in your market? What are the economic and demographic drivers fueling those trends? And what are the long-term prospects of that trend? And so this question is really determines how what I'll say knowledgeable is about the recent development of the area, what's driving population growth, or not driving population growth. Where the jobs at? What's happening in the submarkets? Why do people move and migrate from where they do to where they're maybe moving away from? All of these different things are factors into commercial real estate plays and acquisitions, because you have to understand who your end user is. If you don't understand who your end user is, you're just kind of taking a shot in the dark. And so that's the next question that I always coach people on asking is, what are the trends that you're seeing in your market and what's driving those?
Absolutely. And on top of that, I like to connect the emotional connection there too, right? Because when you know those trends and you know the migration and you know the demographics and you're connecting kind of the emotional pulse of the city or the location, right? And what's happening. For example, this COVID-19, even in downtown Sacramento, I'm talking with clients and they're like, before, like a year ago, before COVID-19, they were just all about downtown, midtown. Now a lot of them are like, hey, I want to get out. Like it's become,
Right.
it's very challenging now, obviously for restaurants, for nightlife, for, this and that, and even collections in California, let alone California eviction control with what's been going on with rent control plus eviction control with COVID-19. So all of those small little intimate details, and then flooding to suburbia, you want to know what those trends are and be able to articulate that. If not, guess what? You're probably not working with the right broker. Is that a fair summary, Logan?
It's a perfect summary. I actually am not going to add anything to that, Brett. That's perfect.
Awesome. Well, next question for Logan is Freeman is this: what's the next best way to find a great real estate broker? Next question I want to ask.
So if somebody can answer those 7 questions and you get through that with them, you're not gonna. I want to make sure you don't make this an interrogation, right? These are questions that you pepper in during your regular conversations with that broker. But being able to talk about, what particular areas in your market are seeing headwinds or tailwinds, what areas would you avoid altogether? That's going to let you know kind of how they're thinking about specific assets and locations. Every market that people invest in typically has an area where people are like, no, you don't want to go there. Sure, the cap rate on paper looks extremely attractive to folks, but you definitely don't want to go there, and here's why. And if somebody's not willing to tell you what that is, either they don't know or they're just trying to get you to buy a deal because it looks good on paper. So really understanding the areas of the market that you're thinking about investing in that you should stay away from. And they should know they should know boundaries, right? Like I know from in where we're located, from Holmes over to State Line, from 75th to 435. I know that cap rate in that area. I know those property owners. We go east a little bit farther, past Holmes. I know that it gets a little bit dicier over there, especially between 89th and 75th. So you might not want to go there, and it should trade 100 basis points higher on the cap rate than it does just west of Holmes Street. So just being able to talk through things like that and have people give you boundaries on streets and recent developments and where to stay away from is a crucial thing that a broker should be able to do for you.
Yeah, I think of it like a doctor, right? I mean, you're basically a doctor of real estate and investments. And if your patient is showing up and you're the patient, and I'm hiring this doctor, I want to know how many surgeries has he performed, right? How many patients have potentially died or lost everything?
Absolutely.
How many, what places to stay away from, what places to go into? There's so many. This is why you're hiring this professional to add this value, to get the value of representation, let alone not only underwriting the property, but then actually getting it into contract, right? Negotiating the terms, not showing any of your cards, right? As much as possible, finding a reasonable amount of ways to negotiate and find a deal, make it work. So there's so many things about the commercial real estate brokerage world that are fascinating. There's psychology, right? There's
Oh
negotiation.
yeah, totally.
There's investigation, and so putting all those together, you want to make sure you got the best in your corner. And Logan is certainly one of the best. Logan, talk a little bit about your track record and where folks can find you if they want to reach out to you.
Yeah, we have completed over 125 million in commercial real estate transactions over the last 3 years. We feel like we're going to be close to 100 million this year alone on the acquisition side. There's a lot of great things happening with the low interest rate environment that we're in. The high bubble that the stock market feels like for a lot of people has got people thinking about moving into the commercial real estate sector. And when people are thinking about selling properties, right? So the 1031 exchange, more people are getting more confidence in back into California and some of those other larger markets where we typically see a lot of those 1031s coming out of, which is then creating more transactions and creating more opportunity. Anybody can find me very simply on LinkedIn, Logan Freeman, or my website, which is livefreeinvestments.com. But if you just search Logan Freeman real estate, I will pop up on the Google and you will be able to find me.
Well, Logan, I want to appreciate you being on the show. We're going to end this part of it, and we're just going to open it up for questions for those who are ready to submit those questions. So, and by the way, if you want to learn more about me, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And I'm Brett Swarts, host of the Expert CRE Secrets podcast and Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. You can go to CREsecrets.com or capitalgainstaxsolutions.com.